You've arrived. The past welcomes you with open arms. So tonight, we're going to talk about something pretty wild. What it would actually be like to wake up in the middle of a Viking winter. No heaters, no fleece blankets, no steaming cup of coffee waiting for you in the kitchen. Just a freezing longhouse, a fire that's almost burned out, and a cow sleeping right next to you for warmth. I know, sounds cozy, right? Oh, and if you've been enjoying these stories, I'd really appreciate a like or subscribe. I always wonder where everyone's listening from, so drop a comment with your city and what time it is there. It's crazy to me that some of you are just getting your morning started while others are drifting off to sleep. All right, get yourself comfortable, adjust your blanket, settle in, and take a slow breath. Let the day slip away, because tonight we're heading back more than 1,000 years into the frozen dark of the Viking Age.
Congratulations, you just woke up in the year 1000. It's not your bed you're lying in, not soft sheets, not a warm duvet, no alarm clock glowing beside you. Instead, you open your eyes to darkness so heavy it almost feels alive. The air burns your lungs when you breathe in. Cold, dry, sharp. The kind of air that makes every breath sting. You try to move your fingers, but they're stiff. Your toes numb. You don't want to leave the small cocoon of warmth you've made through the night. You can hear the soft rumble of animals nearby, a heavy breath, a shuffle of hooves on packed earth. That's a cow. Maybe two. Their bodies are close enough that you can almost feel their heat in the room. Strange, isn't it? Sleeping beside livestock. But this is how you survive a Viking winter. You're not alone on your bench either. Pressed against you are family members, huddled together, sharing one long blanket of wool and fur. The smell is thick, hay, smoke, manure, and the sourness of unwashed skin. Nobody has bathed in months, but in this world, comfort is less important than survival. Your breath hangs in the air like small ghosts, pale shapes in the dimness. The only light in the longhouse comes from the glowing embers of last night's fire. Red coals, fading, barely enough. Someone whispers, "Time to get up." But no one moves. Everyone knows that getting up means leaving the tiny pocket of warmth you've created overnight. It means stepping into the freezing air of the room, where the temperature inside feels only slightly better than the world outside. And outside. It's winter in Scandinavia. Temperatures can plunge far below freezing, 30 degrees below zero. The world is snow, ice, and endless night. The house you're in is not just any building. It's a longhouse, the beaten heart of Viking life. Long, narrow, and dark. The walls are thick, made like a sandwich. Inside, boards of wood. A middle stuffed with earth and turf. Outside, planks to shield against wind and rain. That turf layer is the secret. It holds heat like a sponge, like insulation, centuries before the word even existed. But don't think of this house as warm, not like your home. No thermostat, no chimney drawing smoke neatly upward. Instead, there's a central fire pit right in the middle of the floor. The fire is your only heat, no stove, no fireplace, just flames on stone and smoke curling up toward a small hole in the roof. Not a chimney, just an opening, designed to let the smoke out slowly while trapping as much heat inside as possible. That means everything is smoky. The air you breathe, the beams above your head, your clothes, your hair, even your skin. A thin black layer of soot clings to everything. You cough sometimes, your eyes sting. But this is safer than freezing. The sleeping benches line the walls, raised about 2 feet off the ground because the Vikings knew that cold air sinks. The lowest part of the house, the floor itself, is like a frozen river of air, too cold for sleep, so you sleep higher where warm air gathers. Clever, isn't it? Engineering born from survival, not textbooks. Your stomach growls, loud. Others hear it too. Hunger is normal in winter. You don't eat for comfort. You eat to survive. And in these months the Viking diet changes. Bread and vegetables are rare. Fresh fruit impossible. Instead it's dried fish, smoked meat, and fat. Lots of fat. More than you could imagine. In fact, Vikings ate fat deliberately before bed. Lumps of butter, rendered animal fat, even porridge cooked with fatty milk. Why? Because fat burns slowly inside the body. It warms you from the inside out. It keeps you alive while you sleep through the frozen night. Now picture this. The fire is being stirred back to life. A child runs across the room, barefoot on cold wood, clutching an armful of kindling. Sparks rise as the embers are coaxed into flames again. Shadows stretch long across the smoky walls. People begin to stir. The day is starting. But a Viking winter day is not like yours. The sun barely rises, if it rises at all. Hours of darkness, broken only by pale grey light. Work still must be done. Animals need care. Wood must be chopped. Food prepared. And above all, warmth must be preserved. The family lives together in this single space. Parents, children, grandparents, sometimes slaves or servants too, and of course the animals. Their body heat adds to the warmth of the house. It smells bad. But in winter, you don't care about smell. You care about living. And yet, despite the cold, despite the hunger, this house is alive with voices. The Vikings told stories in these long nights, myths of gods and giants, tales of Thor's hammer striking the frost giants, of Odin wandering the world in disguise, of Loki, sly and dangerous, stirring trouble in every corner of the cosmos. Children listened wide-eyed while the fire crackled. These stories weren't just entertainment, they were survival too. A way to pass endless nights. A way to explain the cruel cold. A way to believe that behind the storm and ice there was meaning. Step outside with me for a moment. The door creaks. Snow squeaks under your bare feet. The night sky is like black glass studded with stars, and there, above you, ribbons as green and violet dance across the heavens. The northern lights. Imagine seeing that for the first time with no science to explain it. No textbooks, no satellites, just the shimmering glow across the frozen sky. A sign from the gods, perhaps, or a warning. This is winter in the Viking Age, a world of cold, hunger and soot, but also a world of resilience, of community, of engineering hidden in wood and turf. Every night was a battle with frost, every morning a small victory, and tomorrow we'll step deeper into this world, into what they ate, how they dressed, how they raised children, and how they prepared for the seasons when the cold finally loosened its grip. Imagine the first sound you hear in the morning isn't an alarm, but the low grunt of a cow shifting in its stall just beyond the wooden partition. The smell of hay and smoke still hangs heavy in the air. The fire in the longhouse has been stirred back to life, but the warmth it gives is weak, barely reaching your stiff hands. You stretch slowly because the air bites. Your breath curls in front of you in small clouds. Around you, people stir one by one. Children rubbing their eyes, elders groaning at stiff joints, a mother pulling a fur over her shoulders before she dares to leave the sleeping bench. It is time to begin the work of staying alive. The first thought of every winter morning is food. Not the luxury of breakfast as you know it, but the necessity of fuel for the body. Food is not endless here. It is measured, stored, protected. You see your mother lifting a wooden lid from a barrel of dried fish. The smell is sharp, salty, preserved since summer by smoke and sea salt. A piece is handed out, tough to chew, but rich with the energy you need. Another family member stirs a pot of porridge over the fire. Not the creamy sweetness you might imagine. This is barley, coarse and heavy, sometimes cooked with goat's milk if any remains from the herd. A spoonful warms your stomach if not your heart. Sometimes when fortune is kind, a lump of butter or lard is mixed into the porridge. It slides across the grains like golden sun in the endless dark. Fat, always fat, the treasure of winter, because here calories are warmth, and without them you wouldn't last long. When you're dressed for the day, notice what you're wearing. Not soft cotton, not synthetic fleece, wool, always wool, scratchy against the skin, heavy on the shoulders, but life-saving. The Vikings knew wool like a second skin. Sheep gave fleece, spun, and woven into tunics, trousers, cloaks. The fibres hold heat even when wet, and in a land where snow melts on your shoulders, that's the difference between comfort and death. Underneath, a linen shirt, softer, cooler against the body. Over everything, a cloak fastened with a brooch at the chest, long enough to wrap around yourself when the wind cuts deep. On your feet, leather shoes, sometimes stuffed with straw for insulation, socks of woven wool, thick and uneven, gloves if you're lucky, mittens if you're poorer. Children wore smaller versions of the same, no bright patterns, no colours except what came from natural dyes, earthy browns, muted reds from madder root, soft yellows from birch leaves, deep blues from woad. Clothes were not fashion. Clothes were armour against the winter. Now step outside again. The door pushes open, stiff with frost. A blast of icy air strikes your face. The sky is pale grey, the sun only a rumour behind clouds. Your breath feels heavier here, as if even the air resists. The men trudge toward the woodpile. Axes in hand, they split logs against the frozen ground. Wood is life, just as much as food. Without it, the fire dies, and if the fire dies, the family does too. Every piece of fuel must be used with care. The temptation to burn brightly all night is strong but dangerous. Firewood must last until spring. Nearby, a woman scatters hay for the animals. Goats bleat, sheep push their noses into the feed. The animals are thin. Food for them is scarce too. They will not see the open pasture until months from now, but they are precious. They give milk, wool, and in desperate times, meat. Protecting them through winter is as vital as protecting your own children. And then, the children themselves, what do? They fetch water, carried in wooden buckets from a stream now covered in ice. They gather twigs for kindling. They help grind grain into flour with a heavy stone quern. Even small hands have work, because every hand matters. Childhood here is not freedom, it is preparation. Back inside the longhouse, the hearth glows. Its smoke rises slowly, stinging your eyes, clinging to your hair. But this is more than a fire. This is the centre of life. Meals are cooked here, clothes dried here, and when darkness swallows the sky again, voices gather around it. Someone recites a saga, a tale of heroes long gone, whose deeds still echo in memory. Perhaps a story of Ragnar, who fought kings and monsters, or the gods themselves, Odin with his ravens, Thor with his hammer, Loki weaving mischief. The The stories are long, winding, spoken in a rhythm like music. They are not just for children, they are for everyone, weaving identity into the long night, reminding each person who they are and where they belong. Sometimes runes are carved into wood, small marks of mystery. Not everyone can read them, but their shapes carry power, whispered meaning. Words were not taken lightly in this world. When the night is longest, when hunger is sharpest, faith becomes strong. You look up at the roof beams and imagine gods watching. The howl of a wolf outside might be Fenrir, the great wolf of prophecy. A storm might be Thor's hammer cracking across the sky. Vikings lived close to their gods. They didn't see them in temples of stone, but in the everyday. The snow, the fire, the northern lights. Death was never far, so belief was never far either. And yet, whispers of change had begun even in this age. Across parts of the Viking world, a cross of Christianity was spreading. New stories, new gods. Some longhouses already had one family member baptized, while another still sacrificed to Thor. A household could be divided by faith, but united by survival. In winter, belief was less about dogma and more about hope. And so, the day wins back into night. The grey light fades, shadows stretch. The longhouse door closes once more, sealing the cold outside. You lie again on the bench, pressed between family wrapped in wool and fur. Your belly is not full, but it is not empty either. Your body aches, but it still breathes. The fire is banked low, embers glowing like tiny stars in the dark. Your eyes grow heavy. And you wonder, how many more nights until spring? Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine you are no longer an adult but a child, a Viking child waking up in the longhouse. The air is the same, cold, smoky, heavy with the smell of animals. But to you it is normal. You have never known another kind of home. The sound of crackling firewood is as familiar as the sound of your own heartbeat. The bench where you sleep is narrow, but you are pressed between your brothers and sisters, and that closeness feels safe. Morning comes not with sunlight, but with the sound of your mother's voice. She calls you by name, telling you to rise. You rub your eyes, still crusted with smoke, and swing your legs down to the floor. The wood feels icy against your bare feet. You hiss at the shock but move quickly. No one lingers in the cold. As a child here, your day begins with work. There is no slow breakfast, no toys scattered on the floor. Childhood is short, and survival allows little room for idleness. You carry a small bucket to the stream, where you kneel and break the ice with a stick before dipping it in. Your hands sting as you lift the cold water, careful not to spill. The bucket is heavy, but you balance it against your hip and bring it back to the longhouse. If you are younger, perhaps 5 or 6, you might be asked to gather kindling instead. Small branches, twigs, dry grass to coax the fire higher. Older children may help grind grain, turning the quern stone slowly, round and round, until the coarse flour is ready. Work is constant. Feed the animals, sweep the floor, mend a tear in a woolen tunic, fetch more water. Each task is small, but together they keep the family alive. There are no schools here, no books, no classrooms filled with benches. Learning is done by watching. You sit quietly beside your father as he sharpens his axe, the stone rasping slowly against the blade. He does not explain what he does. He expects you to watch, to notice, to remember. The way he holds the handle, the pressure of the stone, the way he spits on the edge and tests it with his thumb. Or you follow your mother as she spins wool, her spindle twirling in her hand. She does not hand you instructions. Instead, she tells you to try. Your first attempt is clumsy. The wool breaks, the spindle wobbles, but she only laughs softly and makes you try again. In the Viking world, childhood is apprenticeship to life itself. Boys watch men, girls watch women, and slowly, without realizing it, you grow into the roles that survival demands. But do not think there is no play. Even here, in the cold and the hunger, children find joy. Outside, in the snow, you and your friends carve small figures from wood. Tiny warriors with painted shields. You throw bones like dice, laughing when they clatter on the frozen earth. You chase one another around the longhouse, boots crunching on the frost, breath puffing like smoke. Sometimes in summer you will swim in the fjord, shrieking at the cold water, or roll down grassy hills. You will climb trees and wrestle in the dirt. Play teaches you agility, courage, and cunning. It makes you quick, strong, ready for the harsher games of adulthood. And in the evenings you listen to stories. Always the stories. They are your greatest play of all. Tales of gods, of heroes, of sea voyages. They stir your imagination, planting seeds of dreams. When you hear of warriors who sail across oceans, you imagine yourself among them, standing tall at the prow of a ship, hair whipping in the salt wind. Look around the longhouse. You see more than parents and siblings. A grandmother sits in the corner, her hair white, her hands busy with weaving. An uncle leans against the wall, carving a spear shaft. A servant stirs the fire. The longhouse is not a nuclear family. It is a clan, a web of kinship. Your loyalty is not only to mother and father, but to all within these walls. Kinship is your protection, your pride, your identity. If another family wrongs yours, it is not only your father who responds, but the entire clan. Blood ties are chains of duty, binding everyone together. Children grow up knowing that they belong not just to a household, but to a lineage. Your name itself may be a gift, borrowed from an ancestor linking you to the past. When people speak of you, they often speak of your father as well. Bjorn, son of Eric, or of your mother, Thora, daughter of Sigrid. Identity is shared. You're never just yourself. You are a thread in a much older fabric. As you grow, the tasks of your childhood begin to split by expectation. If you are a boy, you will practice with weapons. A wooden sword at first, a real one later. You will learn to row, to hunt, to defend the household. Your father may take you to sea, showing you how to read the winds, how to set a sail, how to throw a spear with force enough to bring down a deer. If you are a girl, you will learn the skills of the household, weaving, spinning, brewing ale, tending animals, preserving food. But do not mistake these as lesser tasks. A Viking household could not survive without them. Women were keepers of wealth, of food, of inheritance. A farm with no skilled women was a farm doomed to fail, and sometimes the boundaries blurred. A girl might know how to use a blade, a boy might learn the secrets of brewing mead. Survival was the greater law, and it cared little for rules. Yet childhood here is not soft. Many do not survive it. Disease, hunger, accidents, they take children swiftly. You may lose a sibling young, a cough that lingers too long, a fever that burns too hot, a fall into icy water. Death is not hidden from you. It is part of life. A small grave dug on the hill outside the longhouse is a reminder of how fragile breath is. Children grow up fast because the world gives them little time, but those who live strong. By the time you are 12, you are expected to carry real burdens, to take your place as a worker, a hunter, a mother, a warrior. And yet, even in the harshness, there is warmth. At night, you curl against your family, wrapped in wool and fur. You listen to the heartbeat of your mother beside you, steady and reassuring. Your father's hand rests heavy on your shoulder, a silent shield against the cold world outside. The smoke swirls above you, the fire glows low, the animals shift in their stalls, and you close your eyes, drifting into dreams of summer fields, of ships on the sea, of gods in the sky. For now, you're still a child, and tomorrow, when the grey light returns, the cycle will begin again. Work, play, stories, kinship, slowly shaping you into the adult you are destined to be. The long winter eventually breaks. Slowly, gently, the frozen rivers loosen their grip, and the first green shoots push through the thawing earth. The world smells different. The sharp bite of smoke and snow is replaced by wet soil, salt wind, and the promise of movement. This is when the Vikings come alive. You wake one morning not to the dim glow of embers in the longhouse, but to the crash of waves on the fjord. The sea is restless, eager, calling. Men and women alike step outside, their cloaks pulled tight, their eyes fixed on the shoreline. Because there, waiting like a slumbering beast, lies the ship. Imagine it before you. Long, sleek, carved of oak. The hull curves upward like the spine of a serpent, its prow crowned with a carved dragon's head that glares out over the water. Its body is painted with tar and oil, dark and glistening. Its ribs, the oaken planks held tight by iron nails, stretch long enough to carry dozens of men. This is not just a boat. It is the beating heart of the Viking age. The longship can slice through shallow rivers and deep seas alike. It can beach itself on any shore without a dock. Its sail, red and white, striped like the breath of fire, can carry it for hundreds of miles when the wind is kind. And when the wind dies, rows of men bend their backs to oars, the water foaming white under their strength. It is both home and weapon, a floating house, a tool of war, a vessel of exploration. With it, the world suddenly opens. The entire community gathers by the shore. Women carry baskets of food, dried fish, flatbread, cheese, cured meat, to be loaded on board. Children cling to their fathers' tunics, wide-eyed, uncertain if they will see them again. Elders stand silent, their faces carved by both pride and worry. The crew climbs aboard. Boots thud on wood. Shields are hung along the rails one by one until the ship's sides gleam like a wall of iron and paint. The sail is raised. The wind snaps it to life. The ship pulls free from the land, gliding across the water like a predator unchained. On shore, voices rise in song, prayers for safety, or perhaps for victory. And soon the coastline shrinks to a line, then to nothing. Only the sea remains. The sea is not kind. The waves are tall, the wind sharp. Salt spray stings your skin. Hours at the oars turn your hands raw, your back aching. Nights are cold, with nothing but a cloak to cover you. Food is hard and dry, chewed in silence as the stars wheel overhead. But the men laugh too. They sing songs, loud and rough, their voices carrying across the water. They carve runes into the oar handles, scratch dice games into planks, tell stories to pass the endless horizon. The sea is cruel, yes, but it is also freedom. A place without walls, without lords, without the smoke and soot of the longhouse. And every man aboard knows the prize waiting at the journey's end. One dawn, a coast appears. A thin line of smoke curls into the sky from some village, unaware of what is coming. The ship glides silently toward the shore. Oars pull, soft and steady. The carved dragon at the prow seems to grin. The longship scrapes the sand. Warriors leap into the surf, splashing toward land with axes raised. Shields slam together. Boots pound the earth. Shouts break the morning calm. It happens fast. A monastery perhaps. A coastal farm. A village with no walls. The clash of steel. The crack of doors splintering. The cry of animals set loose. Wealth is gathered. Silver, tools, livestock, even people. Some are taken as thralls, bound and dragged to the ships. Others fall in the struggle, the ground dark with blood. It is brutal, sudden, terrifying. And then, as quickly as it began, it ends. The Vikings vanish back to sea, their ships heavy with plunder. To the people left behind, it feels like a storm. Swift, devastating, gone. Word spreads quickly across Europe. The name Viking becomes a shadow that hangs over coasts and rivers. Monks pray for deliverance. Villagers build watchtowers. Kings struggle to defend their lands. But to the Vikings themselves, raiding is not savagery. It is survival. It is honour. It is wealth to bring home. Silver for the chests, livestock for the farms, thralls for the fields, stories for the firelight. And it is more than that. For young men, it is a chance to prove themselves, to earn a name, to show courage, to win a place in song. The sagas praise the bold, not the timid. Better to die with an axe in hand, they say, than to live forgotten. But not every ship sails for war. Some set out to trade, to carry walrus ivory, furs, amber and iron south, returning with silk, wine, spices and silver. Viking traders wander as far as Byzantium, standing in awe before the golden domes of Constantinople. And some ships sail not for trade or war, but for discovery. To Iceland, where volcanic fire meets glacial ice. To Greenland, vast and strange. Even to Vinland, North America, where wild grapes grew on the shores. Imagine being among them, the first to see a new coast rising from the mist, the first to step on a land no one you know has ever walked, to carve runes into a tree trunk as proof. We were here. This too is the Viking spirit. Not only the axe and the raid, but the hunger to see what lies beyond the horizon. And one day the ship turns homeward, its sail heavy with wind, its belly heavy with wealth. The crew is thinner than before. Some never returned from battle, claimed by blade or sea. Their absence is felt in the silence of their empty benches. But those who return step ashore to cheers. Children run to them. Women embrace them. Silver is laid out on the floor of the longhouse. New stories are told around the fire, louder than the crackle of the flames. The raid, the trade, the voyage, all become memory, then saga, then legend, and the cycle waits to begin again. Congratulations! You are still here, still walking through the Viking Age with me. The night has deepened, the fire crackles low, and in the corner of the longhouse shadows move like living things. You blink and rub your eyes, but no, it is not just the smoke playing tricks. It is belief. For in the Viking world, faith was everywhere. It clung to the walls as thick as soot. You see, these people lived in a universe alive with spirits. The crack in the wood beam above your head, that might be a doorway for a wandering ancestor. The soft creak of the roof under the weight of snow. Perhaps the whisper of a god passing by unseen. In this age there is no clear line between the natural and the supernatural. To live here was to live in constant conversation with the unseen. The Vikings worshipped many gods, but not in the way you might picture temples or sermons. Their religion was woven into daily life. Odin, The one-eyed god of wisdom was always watching, but also always testing. Thor, red-bearded and strong, was protector of farmers and warriors alike, his hammer blessing fields, marriages, even newborn children. Freya, with her beauty and fierce independence, guided love, fertility, and sometimes the mysterious fate of the dead. But here's the strange thing. The longhouse itself, with its central fire, was more than just shelter. It was a temple. Each family guarded a carved figure of their chosen god, set near the high seat or placed in a niche where smoke curled past it. And during winter nights like this, when hunger gnawed and the cold threatened, small offerings were made. A splash of ale poured into the earth floor, a piece of fat tossed into the flames. Simple gestures, but loaded with meaning. Now, imagine stepping outside under the star-filled sky. The Milky Way stretches above you, a ribbon of frost across the heavens. To a Viking, this was not just beauty. It was the road the gods themselves walked. Somewhere far off, Odin's hall shimmered, where warriors who had died bravely now feasted in endless light. Somewhere else, beneath the roots of the great tree Yggdrasil, monsters stirred in the darkness. And here lies the tension of their faith. The Vikings believed in cycles of creation and destruction. They told stories around the fire of Ragnarok, the end of the world, when even the gods would fall. Can you imagine listening to that as a child, huddled under firs, knowing that everything, even Thor himself, had an ending? Yet oddly enough, the tale was not told in despair, but as part of life's rhythm. For after destruction, there would be renewal. After winter, spring. Always spring. But faith was not only about stories. It shaped how people lived, how they built, how they went to war. Every raid, every voyage began with a ritual, the spilling of animal blood, the casting of runes to seek the god's will. These runes, carved into wood or stone, were not just letters. They were alive, charged with power. To hold one was to hold a piece of fate itself. And fate, that was the greatest power of all. The Norns, 3 mysterious women who lived at the roots of the world tree, wove the threads of destiny. Not even Odin could change what they spun. To a Viking, this was both comforting and terrifying. You could be the bravest warrior, the cleverest trader, but if the Norns had cut your thread short, nothing could save you. Yet still, they lived boldly, perhaps because of this. Imagine believing that your fate was sealed. Wouldn't that free you from fear? If the day of your death was already chosen, then every other day was a gift to be seized. Perhaps that is why they crossed oceans in open boats. Perhaps that is why they laughed so loudly, fought so fiercely, and told such thunderous tales by the fire. But here, in winter, faith took on a quieter tone. During the festival of Yule, held at the year's darkest point, families slaughtered animals, brewed strong ale, and lit great fires that burned for 12 nights. Yule was more than a feast. It was survival, dressed in ritual. It was the promise that light would return. They sang, they drank, they carved runes into sticks and cast them into the flames, asking for good fortune in the year ahead. And sometimes there was fear. For winter nights were also haunted by darker beings. The Draga, restless dead who might rise from their graves to stalk the living. Trolls and spirits who lurked in the forests. Even Odin himself, who during Yule was said to ride with a host of ghostly warriors, sweeping across the skies in the wild hunt. Children were warned not to wander too far after dark, lest they be caught up in the storming horde. Still, despite the fear, there was wonder. Faith was not separate from the world. It was the world. To sit by the fire, to hear a god's name spoken, to look at the stars and imagine them as sparks from a cosmic forge, this was daily life. Sleep now. Let yourself sink deeper into that perfect relaxation. Your eyelids are heavy. So heavy it would take too much effort to open them now. Your limbs feel pleasantly weighted, impossible to move even if you wanted to, which you don't. You just want to drift all the way down into deep, restful sleep. That's it. Just let go completely. The day is done. The work is finished. Nothing more required of you now except to rest, to renew, to dream perhaps of different possibilities, different worlds. But for now, just sleep deep and peaceful, easy and calm. Sleep now. Sleep well, drifting deeper with each breath down and down into perfect, complete rest.